each manufacturer make different type of clubs for certain type of players. One club might fit one person, but it might not fit another. So that's one of the best reasons why you should go get fitted, so you can try out the equipment, not just the equipment, but just the different equipment that comes with it pertaining to the shafts, and see what works best for you. Like you say, buying a stock shaft off the shelf for someone that's 5'5" might not be the same as buying something off the shelf for someone's probably like average height. Obviously, equipment is made based on someone's average height. So if you're short or tall, taller than average height, it's recommended that you go find a club that you get fitted for, so you can have the club that performs for you versus you trying to perform towards the club.
Golf Smarter number 758. Off the rack or getting fitted for new clubs? That is the question with club fitter Shea Satterfield.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Shea.
How you doing, Fred?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
I'm glad to have you on the show right now because I've been thinking a lot about golf clubs, and I get questions, people asking me about clubs and fittings. And this is a topic that we don't cover very much, and I know I should, but I guess I avoid it because I have the clubs that I want. I don't need to change every year. Do people change clubs frequently from your perspective?
I think with the market industry trying to sell a lot of equipment, people change clubs just about every year based on what type of golfer they are.
Like a whole set? You think people change a whole set every year?
Mostly it's the driver. I think the driver they change out every year. But then you get a nice looking iron set come out, and someone might decide to be like, okay, I don't like the way this one's working, so let me go ahead and try a different one.
They never take responsibility for their swing. It's always the club's fault, right?
Seems like it's always the arrow, but not the Indian. But
there you go.
Indian, not the arrow.
Something like that. I've come to that point where I'm starting to think, wait a minute, this club. Now it's possible that a club in the set could be off, right? Because like sometimes I feel like, how come I can hit each of these clubs nice and straight and it works fine and it goes the distance I'm expecting, and then I hit like my 6-iron and it flays off to the right and it's just not reaching the distances. And I'm wondering, am I trying too hard with that club? Am I overthinking it? Or is it really the club needs some adjustment?
It's funny you say that. Sometimes when you start with your pitching wedge through, I think, 7-iron, they're almost the same length, maybe a little bit inch shorter. Then when you get to the 6-iron higher, the club gets longer. So the longer the club is, harder it is to swing it. Your swing plane is a lot different. Cobra, the company I work for, also makes one length, the one that Bryson DeChambeau uses. So it makes it easy for golfers to use that same length club for every iron.
Just before you said that, I started writing down single length irons. Yeah, with Bryson. How do you feel about that? And do you think that there's finally, because people have tried for years and years to come out with sets of single length irons, but it never really had any traction. I think probably because no one was doing it on the tour. But now you got a high profile guy who's crushing the ball and he plays single length irons.
With the single length irons, for most people, they may work. Some for beginners, it might work even better because they're getting used to getting in a setup position where it's going to stay the same for all the clubs. They don't have to worry about bending down more, standing up higher, because the length of the club is the same length. When you look at the type of player, how it may perform for a certain swing, you got to look at the swing speed, I believe, in my opinion, as a fitter, because a lot of times you get more speed based on the length of the club. So now the club is the same length, predominantly your 7-iron length. So based on how fast you swing that 7-iron club, that's the same swing speed you're going to have for all your clubs because it's the same length. So therefore, you have to get your yardage gap dialed in correctly from your pitching wedge all the way to whatever iron you stop at, either your 5 or 4, because it's the same length. So now the yardage of the the yardage of the ball is go to distance based on how fast you're swinging that club. And that's pretty much going to be the same speed for all your clubs because it's the same length.
So as a club fitter, you're looking for one specific part of the person's swing, one statistic, not specific, but a statistic or a metric in their swing that then you can decide, okay, this is the best length for you. It's not a given that it's a 7-iron, is it?
Predominantly the 7-iron is the length that usually fit. It can be a little bit longer if you want it to be, but that's most people's favorite club to use is their 7-iron because it's almost like that medium length. They feel comfortable standing there. If you get any shorter than that, obviously you're going to lose swing speed, and it's going to be kind of hard to get yardage using the single length clubs. That's why it's best to just fit off the 7-iron, maybe a little bit longer, based on how tall you are. As you know, you've been playing golf for a while, your swing speed with your driver is obviously a little bit faster with your irons. Number one, because the type of shaft you're using is lighter, but also because of the length of it. I don't know if you ever see how fast you swing your pitching wedge versus your 5-iron. Sometimes it might be a little bit different based on the length of the club. But predominantly, when you go to a longer length shaft, your sweep spin is going to pick up just because of how long the club is.
Mm-hmm. Are people playing with drivers that are too long for them? Do you think drivers should be a little bit shorter to have better control?
Well, once again, that's where the fitting comes in place. Yeah, I can't say yes or no, but that's what the luxury of having equipment of putting a little face tape on a club face and see exactly where do you hit it in the center of the club face. And you can do that by either, taking a standard length of a driver shaft and choking down on it, or if you have the luxury of changing out different shafts at different length and seeing what works best for you. Once again, when you cut down the length of a club, you might lose a little bit of speed, but in return, you gain accuracy because you're hitting it more on the center of the club face.
So I know that you're a club fitter at the Temecula Creek Golf Club. You work for Pechanga Resort, but you also do some work for Cobra.
Yes.
And they really are out in the fore as far as large brand names. They are out in front on the single length irons. But you mentioned a minute ago about for beginners or new golfers that are looking to buy their initial set. You think that single length irons works better for people like that than somebody who's maybe a 12 or 13 handicap who's been playing for a while?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the first time they're getting a club length put in their hand. You tell a student to go ahead and set up, and they can maintain that setup position the whole time. They don't have to change position on. That setup is going to be for every single club, from their pitching wedge all the way to their 5-iron. And you ask why? Because it's the same length. Now, if you get a beginner and you say, here, I want you to set up with this pitching wedge, which is probably definitely shorter than your 7-iron, then you give them a 7-iron. Now they have to stand up a little bit taller because it's a little bit longer. Then their posture changes. They get used to maybe some may or may not get uncomfortable and change positions. But you get a beginner and tell them, I want you to be in this position the whole time for your same club. And sometimes it works for them. Single length may work for some. You may grow into it. You may grow out of it. It's based on what you feel and how it performs for you.
What I've found over the years is that new golfers and beginning golfers tend to focus on the ball as their target, right? And so their whole focus is hitting the ball, as opposed to the thought of, which I've learned over years from doing all these interviews, is that the ball is just the middle of your swing, right? And if you get a good full swing in there, the ball's going to make good connection and stuff. So for people who are new to the game and focused on just, I got to hit the ball, and they don't have a great follow through, their swing plane's not great, just doesn't come intuitively. What's the impact? What's the result of single length iron and the different distances? If you have a shaft that's the same length, and they're not really taking advantage of the angle of the loft on the club face. This is really a long question. I hope it comes out and makes sense. I apologize. But I'm getting towards the loft, and the loft is what gives you the different distances on your club. Is that the question I'm trying to ask?
I think that you're looking at. I'm trying to follow what you just asked. I'm just gonna give you an answer, and hopefully I answer the question.
Oh, okay, I love it.
Based on my experience of fitting one length club with certain players, some of them love it because they get to swing the same throughout every club, don't have to worry about changing their setup, and works fine for them. Some of them might get a gapping situation with certain clubs because you're swinging the same length. It's kind of hard to gain swing speed when the club is the same, that your 5-iron is the same length as your 6-iron. So some of the gapping, it might be off. So that's where it come from the player being a little bit of a performer. They hit it consistently every time. I think a higher handicap person versus a beginner, may want to change, but a lot of times people that have been playing golf for a while, they might not like to change to a single length because they've been used to having a certain feeling of a different length or having a feeling of setting up differently. My answer is getting along as your question, but it's really based on preference. I mean, it's really based on preference.
Preference of the fitter or preference of the player? Because the player, if they're a newbie, they don't even know. It's like, you say, well, which one do you want? They're like, I don't know. This is new for me.
Well, that's the luxury of getting fitted. So, when you spend time with a client that's getting fitted, you say, here, swing you this pitching wedge, which is the same length of your 7-iron. Swing this 7-iron, which is the same length of your 5-iron. And then I give them a normal pitching wedge, a normal 7-iron, and a normal 5-iron, and let them make the decision on their own. And then with me having the machine right there to see the yardage, I can look and see which one you perform better with and be like, this is my option. I think you should go with this one. And that can either be the one length or the standard clubs.
All right, I need to go into timeout right now and figure out how to ask shorter questions. So we're going to take a quick timeout here, and we'll be right back after this.
I want to tell you about another one of the podcasts that come from our group here at Smarter Podcast called Radio Baseball Cards. And this week we hear a story that you don't always know about when you follow a baseball player. This time we feature 1987 Texas Rangers outfielder Oda B. McDowell.
Here's another Radio Baseball Card. Oda B. McDowell became interested in wrestling because his brother Greg failed 3 times trying to win a championship. So when Oda B. had his chance, the family was cheering him on.
That's the Radio Baseball Cards podcast. Short stories as told by the greatest baseball players of the 20th century with your host, the late Hall of Famer, Don Drysdale. Radio Baseball Cards is free and available wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
The one length thing is definitely a tricky thing because people may perform well with it, but then they have to go out and play with it. And that's when they see, that's when they have to actually work out the yardage gap and understand the difference. One length is definitely good for beginners, good for people a little bit older who can't really, bend down a little bit more than others, and allows a person to go out, line up the same every single time, make the same swing, know exactly what's going to happen. Nothing's changing. Obviously, you play golf for a while, so you know that, bending down, hit a 9-iron or pitching wedge is different than using your 5-iron. Now, for people that can't hit 5-irons, they can probably hit them better now because it's the same length of your 7-iron. Then a yardage gap comes from, I'm not hitting my 5-iron as far as I should because it's the 7-iron length. So that's the problem you have with the gapping issue. If you're not swinging fast enough to see a big difference in the gapping of your clubs, it might not be a fit for you. I use myself as an example. I can probably swing between, if I'm warmed up, maybe between 87 miles per hour to like 93 to 94 miles per hour with the iron. So if you have a golfer that's, let's say, a mid-handicapper and his swing speed is about 89 or 88, and he can max out at 91, he might not see a big yardage difference between his 6-iron and 5-iron because it's the same length. The loft might be different, but he might not see it different. He might like, I can't get it. So then he's like, I might need a hybrid to throw in there to get me to get a gap yardage. So, and obviously you can play with the clubs. You can bend it, make them strong, make it weaker, however you want to your advantage. That's the luxury of getting fitted and seeing how things work for you. Or you can do a combo set.
What is a combo set?
So with Cobra, we have a speed zone and you have the Forge Tech. So what you can do is, let's say the Forge Tech is the loft might be a little bit weaker or stronger, vice versa, and then the loft on a speed zone might be stronger. So offset a gap. We don't sell a combo set like that, so it might be a little bit more expensive. So you might have to spend money on buying individual irons to offset that gap. So you can take a speed zone iron, 5-iron, and replace that with your Forge Tech 5-iron. So you have a little bit stronger loft, or you can just bend your loft stronger on your Forge Tech 5-iron, keep the same one length set, and be happy with it that way.
Do single length sets come in? I guess this is we're talking about the mix and match.
Yeah.
We started at 3-iron and go to 9-iron, or goes through the wedges.
It goes from pitching wedge, gap wedge, sand wedge, all the way to about 5 or 4-iron, based on what club you get.
Okay.
And then and I believe certain manufacturers for women's sets they might go to maybe a 5 hybrid versus a 5-iron. Make it right. It's like a custom stock set they have.
That's one of the issues I'm having right now, because I carry a driver 3-wood. Actually, it's a 4-wood, but I call it a 3-wood because my fitter told me, just tell people you have a 3-wood. I'm putting a 4-wood because you can get it off the ground better.
Yeah, the 7-wood is money.
And so that was my question is I carry 2 hybrids. I pulled my 3-iron and 4-iron out of my bag and I put in 2 hybrids, but I'm now kind of missing, there's this 20-yard gap in between my 3-wood, 4-wood, my 3-wood and my 4 hybrid. Yeah, I don't have the 5. So do I get rid of one of my, do I get rid of my 3 hybrid and put in a 5-wood? I'm struggling with this right now. I'm thinking maybe I need a 5-wood as opposed to a hybrid, but I don't know what the difference would be. If I hit them the same length, what would be the advantage of one over the other? I'm so glad you're here that I get to ask this.
So what I look at is that I have a perfect example for me is I don't have a 5-wood in my bag. I go with club. I don't have a 230 or 240 club in my bag that I would know that it will stop on the green. I have a driving iron. So my driving iron can go about 230 to maybe 250 to 260. All right. I was thinking about taking my driving iron out and putting my 5-wood in, which would allow me to have a 240, which is a gap. For my fittings, from fitting people based on certain geographic age gap, I see that 7-wood, even for women golfers, 7 fairway wood seem to fit a lot of gap for a lot of people. That helps them with that 4 hybrid. If they can't hit that 4 hybrid, try a 7-wood, and you'll see a big difference in your set.
Really? So, but isn't hitting a hybrid? Aren't you supposed to kind of hit that like an iron?
Yeah,
you're supposed to swing that like an iron and not swing it like a wood.
Yep,
fairway wood.
Yep, you can preferably hit it however you like to choose based on the type of shot you're trying to play. But yes,
but I struggle. Yeah, I struggle with it, and lately it's like, yeah, obviously I don't. You're looking for a gap at 240. I don't hit the ball as far as you do, right? And so I know what distances that I can pull, but when I get into the 190 to 205 range, that I would usually pull a 3 hybrid out because my 3 wood's a little longer. But I'm not hitting it comfortably low.
So the question would be, how far? And obviously, that's what science come in place with the TrackMan. But I can, based on how your swing speed is, just for me doing a while, I can kind of guess exactly how far it is. When you sit there and look at numbers and watch hundreds of people swing, you can kind of guess how far they're hitting their ball based on their swing speed. So how far do you hit your driver?
I don't know. I'm only on one side of it, and I don't. Probably I have hit it 300 yards. Okay. But probably in the 230 to 250.
All right, so 230. So that means your swing speed with your woods is probably about 80 something miles per hour, maybe maxed out at 90.
All right? And I'm getting older.
So with that being said, having 3 woods in your bag is going to benefit you a lot better. I guarantee you a 5 wood and a 7 wood will definitely help you out. You can probably take, if you're not using 3 wood to hit it off the tee, you can probably take that out of your bag. And then,
actually, it's my money club. My 3 wood, my playing partners are even like, he's pulling out the 3 wood. We're in trouble. So because I can long and straight. Sometimes I hit it farther than my driver.
Yeah, so there you go. So you can either keep your driver in the bag just for looks.
I don't have enough room in my bag for looks.
But I play with a PGA professional, and he's about my height, and a little bit bigger. And
how tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
Okay.
And he's probably like maybe 285. He's a solid guy. And he got a 6 hybrid. He got all the way down to a 6 hybrid in his bag.
Wow.
And it works out for him.
With a very long shaft, I'm sure.
It's about average 6 iron length, 6 hybrid length. So.
Really?
Yeah.
For somebody that tall?
Yeah. Well, he probably have it extended maybe an inch, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. But still, I mean, hybrids work. Obviously, hybrids helps get the ball up in the air. Some people can hit them well. Some people can't. Some people think that they hit their irons better than the hybrids, but what you have is, did we get disconnected? Are we there?
Yeah, you did. I lost you there for a moment.
Okay.
So I'm just going to pick it up. I'm just going to say this again, and you can respond. I said, I was saying, does he get extend longer shafts than usual? I mean, if he's that tall, does he get
majority? Yeah. If not, he's working with what he have, but predominantly for a taller guy like myself, my clubs are 1 inch long, and my lie angle is 1 degree upright to help offset for the length of the club. Most people, average, it's above the average height, get a little either half or 4 inch extended. Some professionals prefer to stay the same length and just bend down more and play with it. There's tour professionals that play with standard shafts length and can be tall. Some would just prefer that way because that's the way they were fitted. Yeah.
Now, you'd think somebody who's tall and athletic would have a good, strong starting position, and they don't want to hunch themselves over too low. I'm 5'8". What do I know? I don't know anything about that. All right, let's take another quick timeout. We'll be back with Shea Satterfield, custom club fitter and club fitter for Cobra at Temecula Creek Golf Club, Pechanga Resort. We'll be back after this.
Yeah, I think Jim Furyk, he's about 6'1". Well, he may be 6'2". I heard he used to play with standard length clubs.
Interesting. That 6'1", 6'2". 6'1's not that tall, but 6'3", 6'5".
Well, it's actually your torso. One thing I learned mostly with shorter golfers, you won't have to get shorter length club, but their lie angle tends to be a little bit flatter because their arms are longer than their lower torso. So therefore, the way they set the club down causes the toe to be up in the air more. So we have to flatten that toe down to offset with the angle the way they set up.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes, once again, just from sitting and watching 100 people fit, you can see there and see that the toe is sitting up like that, where it should be like that.
Right.
Just because of the way the angle of the club, if you see like this, so if this is the heel and that's the angle and that's the toe, obviously
right. So the toe, you got the toe. So it's set up, and I'm trying to, because people aren't watching us, so I need to visualize this. But when you're at setup, the base of the club should be flat on the ground and you're saying that some people usually toe up.
Yeah, this part should be almost touch the ground when you bottom out. A lot of times, this might be like if this the heel and this is the toe. For sure, people, the toe might be up like that. So I have to flight
really high.
Yeah, so when they hit the bottom of the arc, that mark right there is flat on the ground.
I see. Okay. How did you get into club fitting?
I think when I was on staff with Callaway back in 2016. I went to go get fitted for them. It was like almost a 2-hour process. That's because I went through all the clubs, irons and woods. And I just got into the technology. A lot of people don't really understand what goes into it, how you see the difference, how it makes you swing better, makes you feel better and feel confident with the equipment you have. And then obviously, prior military is being to the technical sound and seeing the science. If you love science, you see a big difference and you'd be surprised. And having an opportunity to work with people and see the excitement in their face when things are improving just by how better the equipment fits them versus them trying to fit the equipment. And I just enjoy it. Plus, I enjoy working with people. So, been in customer.
So what were you doing? What were you doing at Callaway before that?
I was the first assistant at another golf course, but I was on staff with them. So I was one of I was fitting at my course. And help sell the product.
Did you start playing golf as a kid?
Nope. I started golf when I was stationed in Miami, South Florida.
So you're in the military?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who hooked you into golf there?
Obviously, it was one of my bosses. We were staying in an executive hotel in I think Fort Pierce or St. Lucie. They're right next to each other. That executive course right there at the hotel. They said, "Let's go play golf." 6 hours later with a case of beer, and then I fell in love with it.
It can catch you real quick.
Yeah.
It can hook you in real quick. Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, tell me how you're feeling now about how the PGA is reaching out to communities of color to be more inclusive.
I think one of the biggest things that it kind of got me choked up a little bit because I was watching the PGA Championship and I didn't. People right now, they're not choosing a side, but they're also trying to let people know, look, I'm not blind to what's going on. So this is our positive aspect on bringing the world together and not choosing sides. And they let the PGA professionals guys, they said this is their 60 seconds. They didn't talk about anything of black of color. They just talking about their opportunity. And obviously you can see that they were of color, that you don't have to use the word black or just make it seem like you were choosing a side. They're just letting know that the golf community, the PGA of America, stands for equality for everybody and it gives people opportunity to let them enjoy this game of golf. And this game is for everyone, not just one person or one society. I was brought up in the city environment. I was brought up in a black neighborhood, Italian and Spanish. And I think what happened was, in my personal opinion, everything became so aggressive that no one was listening on either side. And I think that the PGA probably did, out of all the sports, probably did it the best. They didn't do it too loud. They didn't do it too quiet. They did it at the time where people was able to listen and they spoke sincerely, and show that we're all together. We understand what's going on, but we're all together. And I think that did a lot because it showed that they weren't being quiet, and it showed that they weren't trying to be proactive or aggressive to trying to make things change. They just want to let you know we're continue to be the best athletic program there is by allowing everyone to be a part of it and then make too much of a political light of it. So
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that answer.
Hey, are you aware that golf's all-time best-selling instructional books were actually published between 1957 and 1992? Well, it just proves that great golf instruction never gets old. And that's why we've introduced Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insight and advice from the best instructors featured on Golf Smarter that are no longer available through any podcast apps. We have hundreds of hours of hidden conversations that continue to help your game. Now, before the interview with this week's guest, I announced the upcoming recording and asked the audience to submit questions. So the episode not only included information from Mind Power Golf from Stephen Latham, but we also got to open up the mailbag.
My recommendation is, even if you get to the golf course and you've only got 5 minutes after you've paid your green fee to when you can play, is get in tune with the golf course. So have a look around you, notice the trees blowing in the wind, smell the grass, feel your feet on the ground when you walk, pay attention to how the club feels in your hands, and listen to the sounds around you. If you do that, you'll realize 4 or 5 minutes later, you'll be on the first tee, you'll be going, wow.
That's episode 74 of Golf Smarter Mulligans featuring Sportsmind Coach Stephen Latham, being released this Friday. Both Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are free and available wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please subscribe, and when you do, you receive brand new episodes of each automatically when they become available.
So we talked about hybrids versus fairway metals. And you're saying matter of preference, but the thing about the hybrids, which were originally called rescue clubs and still some people do, is hitting the ball out of the rough, but you don't want to go, too far. But you still have that kind of bulk in the head on a fairway metal to get you through rough as well, correct? Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, I think if I can go based on my opinion. If I was in a rough, I wouldn't be trying to hit a fairway wood. If I had a hybrid, I'll take a hybrid. Obviously, I can hit down on it more and not worry about it jumping above the club face. But it's mostly on preference. Once again, it's all about what you tend to hit better. And this is just from my experience from doing fittings. There's some people that hit their fairway wood better than they hit their hybrid, and some people hit their hybrid better than hit their fairway just by the angle of attack, how they swing the club. So it's based on how the person performed. Now, obviously, hitting off the tee, you should rather take a fairway wood unless you feel like you can hit your hybrid farther than your woods.
I've talked to many people who are getting started with golf, and they're saying, I would say, just go get fitted for clubs, because when they say, I'm new to the game, but I want to get a set of clubs, what should I buy? I'm like, go get fitted. Well, I'm not good. I don't have a swing yet. I don't know what my swing is, so I don't want to do that until I get my swing in a good groove. It's like, you don't want to wait that long, and your swing's not going to change that much, that radically. How do you respond to people who are saying that they don't want to get fitted yet because they're just getting started? What would be your advice?
Once again, I always go back to my experience that, working for Cobra, I also learned that each manufacturer make different type of clubs for certain type of players. One club might fit one person, but it might not fit another. So that's one of the best reasons why you should go get fitted, so you can try out the equipment, not just the equipment, but just the different equipment that comes with it pertaining to the shafts, and see what works best for you. Like you say, buying a stock shaft off the shelf for someone that's 5'5" might not be the same as buying something off the shelf for someone's probably like an average height. Obviously, equipment is made based on someone's the average height. So if you're short or tall, taller than average height, it's recommended that you go find a club that get fitted for, so you can have the club that performs for you versus you trying to perform towards the club.
Excellent. And also when shopping, are you familiar with, obviously you're familiar with Cobra and other major manufacturers, but what about boutique brands? What about these guys who just, like we had a company, Edison Wedges, on recently, and they focus on nothing but wedges. Like there's a lot of small companies. Putter companies is a great example. There's a lot of small guys, small businesses that do putters that, unless you, again, as I said earlier, unless you see it on the tour, no one's going to pick up on it. No one's going to be buying those. And that's the kind of stuff I love to find, to share people that, hey, there's options out there. How do you feel about the big brand versus boutique brands?
Well, I can't really speak on it because I don't really know. I haven't actually used the equipment, so all I can say is do your research. But you can look at some of the top equipment out there and look and see who's at the top and who's at the bottom, and try it out. But once again, that's why they have these fittings. I mean, certain places based on where you are locally. Obviously, before COVID happened, they had multi vendor demo days where you have like 7 vendors lined up at the driving range, and you can go right down and try them out. If you're fortunate enough to get to Orlando, maybe in 2022,
yeah, right, exactly.
2021 for the PGA show where they got all the vendors out there and try the clubs out.
Demo days.
That those demo days works out best for you because you get to try the equipment out, and sometimes you get a discount break if you buy them there.
It's a good tip. I've never been to the PGA show. For all the years I've been doing this, I wanted to give it it's the time of year, and it's not inexpensive to do that trip from the West Coast. So I've not been able to do it. Just a lonely podcaster here. Shea, do you have people come into you asking about getting fitted for putters?
Oh, no, not too many. They ask questions about putters. I recommend them getting fitted. I mean, obviously, as a golf professional, I always encourage people to go get some advice from someone that has an expert in that opinion. But rarely they do come and ask to get fitted for a putter. We don't have the capability of doing it here, but there's other local facilities that you can use to get fitted for a putter.
Okay. I was curious about that. And what about wedges? Now, how do you fit wedges versus an iron set?
Iron set's a little bit different. Wedge, you're looking, I'm not going to really say I'm an expert wedge fitter. I mean, I leave that up to Volky. But wedges, most of your gap yardage, see what type of bounce you use. Obviously, if you're a person that tend to have a hard time hitting a wedge, you want a little bit more bounce, which is a little bit more forgiveness. Then you just look at the gapping yardage, what feels good for you. You can get more in depth into that, but mostly what I deal with is irons and woods. Our wedge that we have fitting is mostly limited to what we have and the type of grind that you're looking for based on the type of facility you're going to be playing on. If it's going to be a lot of high grass or tight lies, that's where you're looking type of bounce you're going to use on the wedge that you're going to have.
We recently talked about Edison wedges a few minutes ago. Terry the wedge guy, Kaler. He's been on this mission for many years with wedges that the wedge design has not changed over the decades, where every other club in your bag has gone through a major transformation over the last 20 years because of not only the rules, but also materials that they're using to make the clubs. How do you feel? Are wedges like they're fine the way they are, or you would like to see some modification?
As a player standpoint, you don't want to mess with wedges too much because that's your scoring club along with your short irons. And if you start doing stuff with that and the ball starts spinning more than what you're used to, you're pretty much messing with your money right there. Obviously, people, when they have wedges, they want to be able to control those shots. Obviously, and those are accuracy. You don't need your wedges to fly 200 yards. You just want it to go at least between 50 to 100 yards. And if you can't get those wedges and then stop at the same time, you don't want it spinning back off the green.
Right. And what about cavity back versus blade irons? I know cavity backs are far more forgiving, and it seems like most people should avoid playing blades unless they have a very, very good game.
All right. It's funny you say that. I was showing someone that most I say player performance clubs they have a little bit more of a stronger loft on it. Like for example, let's say a 7-iron these days on most clubs are like 29 to like 28 degrees, where a true 7-iron might be like 34 or 33. I actually have a combo set myself with Cobra clubs. I have a muscle back from pitching wedge to 6, and then my cavity back is for 5 to 4. Those are cavity backs. Obviously, the longer clubs, I want a little bit more forgiveness just in case I mishit them, and they're a little bit easier to hit farther than blades.
I don't know what a muscle back club is.
It's
I know cavity back.
Muscle bag is a blade. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's just another name for it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. All right, very cool. So take me through the final thing I really want to know, and I'm not going to ask you about what's the best value brand going, because you're associated with a specific brand, so that's not a fair question to you. But let's walk through a fitting process. What does somebody, need to? There's probably misconceptions in their mind of what a fitting is and what it's going to cost. They understand the value, but they just don't think they can afford it or that it's worth it. Let's talk about the fitting process and why it's so important for every golfer.
The fitting process allows you to make the right choice for what you're trying to purchase. Obviously, if you get fitted for a set of clubs that you like, you'll probably keep those set of irons for a couple years, unless you're an impulse shopper and you just want to buy new every year. And then once you start playing with them, you start scoring well, you're not going to want to change them out. So, fitting serves a long-term purpose. The process is you can go to your local golf shop if they have fitting capabilities, or you can go to your golf club if they have a fitting capability. Me, I'm lucky enough to have a TrackMan and be able to fit clubs with people and give them the science, the numbers, and see which club performs well, along with exchanging different type of shafts in and out to see which works best for them based on their swing speed. And the process can be from a half hour to an hour based on what you're trying to get fitted for. If you try and get fitted for just irons or woods, it can be maybe 30 to 45 minutes, unless you try and get fitted for a whole set, and then it can take about an hour, hour and a half.
Shea Satterfield, club fitter at Temecula Creek Golf Club down in Temecula, California, with the Pechanga Resort Casino and Golf Club. It has really been a great conversation. I appreciate your time and your insights today. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Well, hopefully that's going to the last time I record an interview with an N95 mask on. I'm telling you that the air here in Northern California from the wildfires has been so bad that I've had to cancel multiple rounds over the last couple of weeks because the air just isn't safe to breathe. COVID is bad enough that we can't see our friends or go out to restaurants, but the stress level of not being allowed to go outside because it's dangerous to breathe is off the charts. We can't open the windows. We don't have air conditioning. We have fans. Now, usually our air quality index, or our AQI, is around 3 or 4. But last week we woke up to the ungodly number of 330. I've decided that I'll play golf if the number is under 100, but beyond that, it's just not safe. Although I'm still seeing occasional golfers outside my window here at the Marin Country Club. Sorry, I just don't get it. So, see, I can breathe now. So a main goal of this podcast is to expose us to as many aspects of the game that build a fully integrated player. Mechanics, equipment, mental, strategic, and of course, physical. That's why I'm so excited that we're giving away a free golf physical assessment and golf exercise program courtesy of Par for Success. If you need more information, then please check out our last episode, number 757, featuring Chris Finn. Registration is now open at golfsmarter.com. Then just click on the Enter Now banner at the top of the page. Deadline to enter is Sunday, September 20, 2020. It's midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern is your deadline. Also, if you'd like to take advantage of the $50 Golf Smarter discount, then click on the link for Par for Success when you register. There's a link there. It'll be obvious. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for products or guests, just click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.